Welcome to the Deepak Saini Show.
Welcome to the Deepak Saini Show. I want to thank J23 for the intro music. You can find a link to her music in the show description. Today is a special edition of the show, part of a series I'm calling Overcoming Health Challenges. My guest today is Penny Hopkinson. Penny reimagines the dull, text-heavy operations manual that nobody reads into a dynamic, engaging, knowledge-sharing piece of literature that team members, can actually learn from and grow from. Penny is the author of Manual Magic: Create the Operations Manual Your Franchisees Need to Succeed, the definitive book on the subject of franchising and licensing. She coaches and mentors clients to create their world-class operations manual. But we're gonna talk a little about that, but we're gonna really dig into a health challenge that Penny has overcome. Penny, welcome to the Deepak Saini Show.
Thank you, Deepak. I'm delighted to be here.
I'm super happy to have you here, and we've talked beforehand and whatnot. So I'm really looking forward to getting into your story. But before we get into your story and your overcoming your health challenge, writing operations manual. This is probably not something you grew up as a little girl thinking. I want to be an operations manual writer. So just give us a high level, like, how did you fall into doing that kind of work?
By total accident. It was one of those situations where you reach what most people call a crisis. I call a crossroads. I was a Middle East correspondent, specializing in socioeconomic across the Gulf states. And then it became more political. I found that the supplements that I was writing or contributing that were normally 36 pages long became 4. And my income dropped like a stone. Oh goodness, what am I going to do? Because I absolutely loved what I was doing. Because I was interviewing merchant ministers and members of the ruling families. But all of a sudden, there wasn't the income. Anyway, previous editor was editing a publication for the Institute of Purchasing and Supply. So it was a management magazine, which is monthly, and a fortnightly newsletter. And he said, "Do you think you could be a quality correspondent for us?" And I thought, well, maybe that as much as anything.
I don't even know what that means. What is a quality correspondent?
Writing about things like total quality management, quality circles, and the Japanese Kaizen.
Okay.
To continuous improvement. And I really, really loved it. And I thought, I think I might be able to make a business out of this. So I did my research, and about 2 years later, I got my first proof of concept with Lloyd's of London, the big insurance corporation, for their underwriting procedures at Lloyd's. And I then thought, well, how can I don't quite have to take this forward. And by luck, which is, I think, 90% of everything somebody does, I met somebody from the Guinness Book of Records. And they said, we have a division which has just bought a major, iconic health spa. And we need an operations manual. Interested? You bet.
And that's how it was born.
And that was the first franchise, and then it snowballed.
Awesome. So, yeah, I guess the takeaway is you just never know where it's gonna take you. That's an amazing story. So, and I don't want to diminish anything in that realm of your life, but we do want to get to this health challenge that you've overcome. So I know we've had a conversation before. But why don't you, kind of give the audience the Clip Notes version of what you went through and what you've overcome.
Okay. So I was due to present a manuscript to my publishers, which is one, Manual Magic. And I went down with COVID, which I inevitably caught from my husband. And whilst he recovered pretty quickly, mine lingered and it suddenly became worse. And they say that an unknown allergen entered my lungs and inflamed them to the extent that I woke up. Well, in fact, I didn't really go to sleep, but about 1:30 one morning, I was really gasping for breath. And eventually, my husband decided that he needed to call an ambulance, and I was carted off the hospital, and I was there for a week trying to stabilize my breathing. And I think I was very lucky that I didn't go onto a ventilator. It took probably 2 months to get my breathing back to any shape or form I could have called normal. In that time, there was the pressure to try to complete my book, and I just couldn't. For the first time in my life, and that is also going forward, I missed deadline after deadline, made excuse after excuse, which just wasn't me, because I've been a journalist since I was 21, and I was in my 70s, and this was just an awful lot of pressure. And I think by the September, I had had 5 months of long COVID, or what is now recognized as long COVID.
Right, right. So, Penny, a couple things before we move on. So, you had mentioned, I'm paraphrasing, I forget exactly what you said, but it's something to the effect of like, thankfully, I didn't get put on a ventilator. So, I think, well, I don't want to assume for the audience, but for those us in the health sphere or who come to educate ourselves during the COVID period, that was probably for most people the worst decision that and they didn't know what early on, but I think they figured out pretty quickly. But the fact that they kept going with that policy in many places for much longer, once they sort of realized that wasn't working, is a travesty. So yes, I agree with you. Thankfully, they didn't put you on a ventilator. My other question is, from the point of like first, saying, catching COVID, or from your husband not feeling well, to the point of like your husband had to take you to the hospital. How long was that time span? And hey, did you happen to see a doctor in that time span for whatever symptoms you were feeling at that time?
No, I didn't see a doctor. I think I'd had a telephone consultation, and I'd been given one course of antibiotics, and they did not work. They didn't, because the congestion as a result of the cough had got so deep and so complicated with the inflammation that I don't think there was a chance for everything to clear. I had a conversation with my doctor, which said my my blood oxygen level had dropped to about 90, and he got a little bit concerned, and he said, "Well, if it remains like that, you need to go to hospital."
So, Penny, so I'm just so I'm clear, and so the audience is clear. So, you didn't see your doctor in person, but you had a telephone consult, and then based on just you describing your symptoms, he prescribed antibiotics without actually a physical examination or anything like that. Okay, so
Yes, absolutely.
I'm all for teleconsults. I don't think I need to go see the doctor for every little thing, like in person, because it's a big hassle to, make an appointment and drive there and all that sort of thing. But I guess you can play both ways. That maybe that wasn't necessarily the most effective thing for you or other people without a physical examination as well. So you said 5 months approximately of kind of what now is being called long COVID. So what were your symptoms during that period, and like how long after post hospital were you like, oh, I have long COVID or I have something?
I think it must have been 2 months afterwards, because I really wasn't getting any better. I was totally exhausted. I had what everybody now seems to call brain fog, where I almost thought that I was getting early stages of dementia because my thoughts did not coordinate with my speech in terms of I just could not think of everyday words. There was just this blank searching, and I've always been, I know this is subjective, but pretty sharp because I deal with words day in and day out.
Right.
This complete inertia. Every single thing I did required huge effort. You know, even going to put the laundry in the washing machine, silly things like that. And I would get up in the morning very reluctantly, go downstairs, feed the animal, and break out into a tremendous sweat day after day.
Right. So symptoms primarily, did you have did you still have that lingering cough or congestion as well
Yes, I did.
through that period? And yeah, did you have any, um, for lack of a better term, like body aches or like aches and pains, kind of naggy things that you normally wouldn't have?
I just think there was this general feeling of being completely out of sorts. You know, you know when your body changes.
Right.
You know when it's been, for want of a better phrase, it's had some kind of an attack. And I knew that the process of getting my breathing back would take some time, because the medication had been steroid and the two types of inhaler. But I really struggled if I needed to go down the road or do any even suggestion of a hill. I was gasping for breath.
Yeah. And I think more and more, and many people who have suffered from long COVID or something similar or seen others, what you're describing is quite common. And also, you earlier mentioned, Cyril, what we're calling, brain fog or not being quite yourself or not thinking, seeing this increasingly. I mean, and not just from long COVID patients, but, other toxicities, whether it be mold or other type of things. And we're going to get into what in a moment here, what you found as a solution for you. But I would just say to the audience, when you're experiencing those type of things, I mean, there's many root causes potentially. I think mitochondrial dysfunction is your body's not producing the energy, and I think that's what, if I had to guess, Penny, your experience with the brain fog and many others do as well, and really supporting the mitochondria can really help in that. And there's a lot of modalities for that, and reach out to anyone if you're suffering with that and you want to know. But Penny, what did you find as sort of your saving grace, if you will, to kind of bring you back to normal?
Well, this was a discovery absolutely by chance. One of the other authors under the same publisher was publishing a book in the same area as mine, franchising, and I happened to be chatting to him, and I said, I've unusual missed these deadlines, and he said, I had exactly the same experience, and he said, I thought I was going mad or getting the early stages of dementia. He said, I have found something that I would recommend to you. And so we discussed it, and it was called Curcumin Plus from a company called Vidify. And it was curcumin which had been treated specially in Germany and was being shipped to Mexico to be bottled. And from there was being sent out to whoever would want it. And I thought, well, quite expensive. Well, for that amount of money, if it works, I couldn't care if you double it. So I thought, let's give it a go. And I did from the November. And within 2 weeks, my brain function seemed to come back to normal. I had loads of mental energy, and I was taking 10 drops a day in the morning in water. And there was a recommendation that you should also take a few drops at night, which would help you sleep. So I thought I'd try that. And I had the best night's sleep. I was really sharp within a month. I have to say that perhaps the energy didn't come back quite as quickly, and it probably took a couple of months worth of taking the drops, and then seemed to clear completely.
Amazing. So before I start talking about curcumin, Penny, any way along the way, did any of your doctors or specialists or anything talk about any sort of product, curcumin or otherwise, about bringing inflammation down systemically?
None at all. This was the first time I'd known about curcumin because of the Indian. It's used a lot in India, turmeric. And I'd taken some capsules, but they hadn't had any effect. It's what we call over-the-counter product. This you can't get over the counter.
Right.
The difference is that this is supposed to be prepared in such a way that it stays in your body for 24 hours. Therefore, it can do most work in reducing the inflammation, which I believe, and obviously I'm not as qualified as you are, but I believe that most illness is caused by inflammation.
Oh, I would absolutely 100% agree with that, Penny. Inflammation, and it comes from many, many sources. As I always tell people, it could be the things we eat, it could be environment, the products we put in ourselves, on ourselves, et cetera, et cetera. So I think everyone got Penny obviously has a very charming accent here, but, I think anyone from North America understands we're talking about curcumin, turmeric, et cetera. Huge anti-inflammatory, of course. Yes, it's been used in Indian cooking and as a medicinal spice, or for medicinal properties for, 5,000 years. It's also used in Chinese medicine a little bit as well. So I guess a point I want to bring, a couple of points for the audience is, one, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but your GP doesn't know many of these things. Your average GP, they're at least 17 years behind on the latest research and stuff. And curcumin and many other natural products have been studied for decades and decades. So that's kind of a travesty in that sense. And really with COVID, long COVID, it's really an inflammation issue. So there's, again, like I said earlier, there's many ways you can bring down inflammation. I'm not going to get into all of those right now. If anyone's interested, please reach out to me. But yeah, curcumin is one example. And this sounds like, I'm not familiar with this particular brand that you mentioned, but it sounds like it's a proprietary formula that helps it last longer in the body. Time release maybe probably encapsulated lipids, I would imagine. So it goes in where it needs to go a little bit better, not just through the stomach and out the intestines type of thing. And I'll just say, for full disclosure, so I've never used this product that Penny has mentioned, and we'll have a link to it in all of Penny's links and everything if you want to get your franchise manual done and like all that kind of stuff. We'll have all Penny's links in the show notes there. But in our family, we just use over the counter. We also cook. I'm half East Indian, so we cook with curcumin and turmeric. And when I have little aches and pains, I take it more so from sort of a physical aches and pains point of view, as does my wife. And we have two different bottles that have different strengths. So, I think one that's about 0.5 gram, which is not a ton. That's kind of just the little things. And then we have one that's like 3 grams or 3.5 grams or something like that for when there's a little bit of a soreness or something, or someone's knee sore or back or whatever. So this product sounds like it's next level for curcumin. But what I'm trying to get to all of you is like inflammation and reducing your inflammation wherever it's coming from and however it's manifesting for you. Hopefully you don't have long COVID, but even back pain, knee pain, whatever, bringing inflammation down is so key to that. So I appreciate you sharing that, Penny. And again, can you just one more time? We'll have the link again, but what is the product name again?
It's called Curcumin Plus, and it's by Vidify, Vidafy.
Okay, and we're gonna have a link that you can. Full disclosure, Penny's found this product obviously so beneficial to regain her health, and I'm so glad you did. She's got a link there. We'll have it in the show notes again. If you're looking, you want to like try this for yourself, whether you have long COVID or just some inflammation that you want to try. We'll have it in the show notes, and you can go through there and purchase them. Because again, you can't find this product over the counter. And the other thing I wanted to mention too, and I think people who've heard me speak before have heard me say this before: quality products will cost more because there's not a bunch of junk in them. There's not a bunch of fillers, et cetera. So they will cost more, but you get what you pay for, like most things. So I appreciate that. Penny, as we just come slowly to a close here, I'd love to know if you're, a two-part question. One, are you feel like you're 100% back, both mentally and physically? And let's start with that. Let's start with that question. Do you feel like you're 100% back now?
Mentally, yes. Physically, perhaps not, because I had another bout last April, April just gone, and that set me back. I haven't got long COVID. It cleared quicker than the first time, probably because I had the medication almost immediately. But I studiously took my curcumin, and although I think I've still got a little bit of a way to go because I have a very sedentary lifestyle. I'm still working, I'm still writing, and so I am not the most active person in the world. And I think that the next month or so, I shall be going to good exercise regime.
And yeah, I love that you said that. And for the listener, wherever you're at, whether you're as active as you want to be, or need to you're overcoming something, or you need to up it, like Penny has realized, her, just start somewhere. And sometimes we have setbacks, but movement is key, just as our nutrition and our mental health and our sleeping, and there's all these components of our overall health that go together. So I love that recognition by you, Penny, that's the next step for you. What does your like morning routine look like? Obviously you're kind of not quite getting back into exercise, but like what does it look like for you when you get up in the morning? Do you have a sort of a practice or anything like that that gets you sort of ready for the day?
I think perhaps my time of meditation is in the shower. That's always been where I had the best ideas. It may seem a bit peculiar, but it's a time where I'm absolutely on my own, and all you hear is water falling, which I find very therapeutic because where I live is the furthest from the sea in England, and water and sea are very, very important. My birth sign is Pisces, which is a water sign, although that has absolutely nothing medically to do with it. But I just find that time is really valuable in collecting my thoughts and determining what I'm going to be doing during the day. Sometimes there's a light bulb moment, and yeah, now that would be good to put in a book or piece of writing or whatever. So I then go and take my curcumin, my 10 drop, and I have to be very careful because anyone who takes or uses turmeric or curcumin, if you've ever got something on a white fluffy towel,
It stains.
yes. So being very, very careful. Then I go down and I have my first main coffee of the day, and then I start work, and I'm absolutely set.
Awesome. I love the meditation in the shower and the recognition that you are a water person, and that is where you're happy. And if it has to be the shower, not the ocean, then so be it. But that's amazing. Penny, what would be in conjunction with overcoming your long COVID and all you experienced during that process, maybe some missteps along the way, or maybe lack of education by the medical professionals that you were seeing. What is like a word of wisdom that you would give to the audience if they're either them or a loved one is experiencing that, or maybe in the future will experience that? What would be some words of wisdom that you would offer to them?
I think that I would, if I'm not satisfied with a GP, general practitioner, answer, I would go to somebody now who has wider knowledge. General practitioners, obviously, general, and I don't really blame. And I was between COVID vaccinations. I was just looking at my history before we came on the show, and there is a year between the last and the next one from that first occurrence. So we have been vaccinated every 6 months since then. So I think that was the how it all came into being. What I would say is take every day a step at a time. When you're not feeling well, we always, I think, try and rationalize what it is. We can recognize a cold. We can recognize, now we're beginning recognizing COVID or changed. But I think in the US, you are far more advanced in how you look at a person who is unwell. I think you have a much more holistic view. You take a more holistic view.
I would, well, let me finish your thought. And I have three things. I have three things I want to piggyback on that.
Certainly, I think you would do. Whereas I think still in the UK, a GP is isolated, doesn't really think, perhaps they need to go and go to somebody who had a deep background in alternative medicine, because you don't want to always rely on antibiotics, and certainly not steroids. There has to be another way.
Yeah, there's three takeaway there points I'd say. Number one, so I agree, 100% agree with you. Yeah, we can't blame the GPs. That's just how their education and their training is. And I would, again, strongly recommend, find someone, GP is a starting point, but then find, a naturopathic doctor, functional medicine doctor, or, someone who's trained in a bunch of different modalities, and or maybe who can at least direct you, not to plug myself, but, someone like myself who can help you with certain things and then outsource you to other things depending on your situation. So that's number one. So I love that fact. Number two is recognize that it can be a process, whether it's long COVID, something else you're going through, even, hey, you just got to lose weight. Like, it's a one step at a day, process take every day as you can. It's good to have a long-term goal that we want to reach this, we want to get healthy, we want to, whatever the case may be, but we have to do it one day at a time, or even, sometimes multiple steps in the day type of thing. So I love that as well. And then, I will just, to your last comment there, I'm in Canada, so our system is more similar to the UK than the US, but I'm very familiar with the US system. I would say there's a lot more availability to alternative, but I still think the barrier to the average person to get that type of more advanced holistic care is still not where I would love to see it to be. So I think there's still a lot of similarities there, but anyway, that's just my opinion. So, Penny, I really want to thank you for not only being a guest on the show, but also being open and vulnerable to sharing your health story with the audience, and hopefully, I know it will inspire someone who's listening to this, who's gone through that or is maybe yet to come to it. We're still seeing this. I'm seeing this all the time. People are reaching out to me all the time for long COVID advice and how to handle it. So hopefully, this will inspire someone. So yeah, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you very much for inviting me. And I am so pleased of an opportunity to share this, because if one person can benefit, that is a good stepping stone.
Absolutely. One person at a time. That's what I like to say. So again, thank you, Penny. I'm going to throw it back to J23, who's going to guide us out with some music. Don't also forget to check out today's sponsor at the end of the episode. And again, thanks everyone for listening to the Deepak Saini Show. Remember, exceptional results for the exceptional you. And thank you to my guest, Penny, and we'll see you all next time.
This episode is brought to you by Optimizer's Masszymes. This is digestive enzymes that helps you break down your protein, fats, starches, and sugars. I've been using this product for, over a year now, specifically in a protein-heavy meal, because I really want to break down my protein to make sure I get the amino acids that I need for maintaining muscle growth, maintaining lean muscle mass. Super important as we age and all stages of life, really. So again, huge proponent of Masszymes. Check out the link below to see how you can get at least 10% off, if not more. Cheers.
Podcast produced by the Minted Green Company